Now, coming back from, we are currently in this very tough situation. Currently Geneva is a little bit better than other countries, like developing countries that other people come from the Institute, but we've got varied cases going on. The world, we have a lot of attention, we're bombarded with so much of news, and our entire attention is on that, whether it's injustice, whether it's animal rights, human rights, climate change, a lot of other things that we focus on, plus our own personal life that we do focus on. But coming back to that lockdown that we did go through over here in Geneva, because we did stay here, I would like to know if, were you the same person before the lockdown? If you were, why? If you're not, also why? And what were some of your hopes and worries that you had at the start of that lockdown? And summing these two questions up, what were the lessons that you've learned throughout this lockdown? Because it was definitely a long period, whether we went back home or whether we were here, there was a lot of course, there was a lot of time where we had to reflect about our journeys. At least I did. I definitely reflected a lot, looking forth. Maybe even I had a destination, a fatigue actually more of, I need to kind of go after this. But I'd like to know what your thoughts are. So let's start with Sophie. Were you the same person before?
Okay, so it's a very hard question, because I would say both yes and no. Yes, I feel I'm still the same person than I was before, in the sense I had the same values, I still have the same purpose. But in a sense, I would say also no, because all these external circumstances, they can help us to become a little bit more of what we are. I would say that life can be seen as an experimental field, and it's also something that I heard a lot with the people that I had the chance to coach during that period, that it was a challenge, but it was also an opportunity to become a better person. And people had time to really look deep down. So what I would say is that we are in a society in which we're constantly running after things, and we are really extroverts, meaning that we meet a lot of people, we go to a lot of social events, cultural events, and we end up always doing and meeting and exchanging, and it's very interesting, and it's it's a lot of fun also. Let's say it honestly, but we can get lost in the battle also, because at the end of the day, we are not only the sum of everyone we saw and everything we did. We are something much deeper than that. So being kind of forced to be locked down with yourself, because even if you were with other people, if you were with your partner, if you were with your family, if you were with roommates, the person with whom you've been truly locked down is yourself. So yeah, I would say this very special period was very important in the way that all of that stopped, and it was much more quiet. So the external world kind of disappeared for a while, unless through the news and all of this, but truly in our day-to-day life, it disappeared. And when all of this was done, it was like three circles, the external circle stopped, then you were done with redoing all the decoration, and then what remained was yourself. And it was really the last step about, okay, let's look deep down. Who am I? What do I really want? So I saw that as a very good opportunity, and I was very grateful, because it allowed us to take a minute to think about what do I want to do, but more than that, who do I want to be? So it allowed me to kind of let go of a few things, because I'm also a very extrovert person. I like to meet people, I like to go out, and when all of this stopped, I managed to let go a little bit of all of this and think, okay, I love this, but I don't need it. And I started to enjoy more and more all these quiet moments with my family and also with myself. So yeah, definitely it also changed a few things in that perspective.
Yeah, this is so lovely to hear, especially when you mentioned about how we are so reactive to certain things, that we are not essentially proactive. And we kind of learned to be with ourselves, and little things really made to those proactive actions that we could to be happy. And so what about you, Claire? How is it?
I I think that I would say that I'm still the same person that I was before the lockdown. I similarly, I have the same values, but I do think that it's helped me become, helped me work on my gratitude quite a bit. I began the lockdown, actually, I was coming from Spain before this, and so, as you all know, the cases really hit Spain first pretty hard in Italy, and I began the lockdown knowing somebody who was in the ICU with COVID, and so it was a very intense first week of lockdown for me, and it was really filled with just worry and dread of loved ones, of not being able to see people again, having family so far away. And so it really started for me as something that felt very apocalyptic. Toilet paper was selling out on the shelves. People were going mad in the grocery stores. And it was something that I had obviously never experienced before in my life. And it started out with so much fear for me and so much worry and anxiety. But that, of course, with time was transformed, and with a lot of reflection and a lot of thought, a lot of conversations, became really something that turned into gratitude. Because here in Switzerland, it was not as bad as a lot of other places, but we had sort of so many small things. My ability to go out for a run in the afternoon and to just see people on the street. Suddenly, what had been so mundane for me, and maybe something that I would even have to force myself to do, I was so appreciative to be able to leave my house whenever I could and to go out for that run, because I knew people around the world were not able to do the same thing. And I listened to a lot of really great podcasts and I listened to a lot of great videos, and I think I would take sort of your levels of reflection one further, because what I really spent a lot of time thinking about is beyond our internal and our external surroundings is our society. And I think one of my biggest hopes for COVID and coming out of this lockdown and just of the pandemic more generally was that it would be a wake-up call for us as a society to start to value what we're talking about here, the things that really matter. So to be valuing our health more, to be valuing our families, to be valuing our education systems that we're seeing sort of falling apart with all of this. And obviously, we're not gonna see the fruits of that probably for a long time, and I still am remaining hopeful that there will be some sort of disruptive change. And of course, it's never easy, but I am hopeful that this situation there'll be enough of the individual reflection to cause a more societal ripple, at least. So, again, we'll have to see. But I am very happy now that we've been able to get out a little bit, to start socializing again, and to hopefully appreciate those little moments more, to appreciate that glass of wine with a friend after work, or to be in the office again, to be in an office and to have somebody just knock on the door and peek their head in. Something you really miss over Zoom calls is that little social aspect. But that going back to our normal everyday life doesn't mean losing that internal reflection and losing that gratitude for the people in our lives, for the ability to talk to them, for their health, and those small things that we're able to do.
Absolutely lovely. I was lost in your explanation. I mean, that's so true. I think one of the things I faced while I was in the lockdown was a lot of my internal fears that I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm not good enough, or maybe I don't know if this was a part of the self-harming thing that it's a very natural thing that people do in terms of the comparison that you mentioned. But I faced that. I put it on the table. Look, this is something that I'm going through. What is the value of this? What is the worst thing that can happen? What is the best thing possible that can happen? Putting into perspective, valuing that. At the same time, gratitude. That was very, very lovely that you mentioned that. I think that was definitely a big step for those little things that bring micro lightness and being here and now and the happiness. So, but what about you, Mukta? How has it been?
Your responses were beautiful. I was listening, like she said, lost in the explanation. But I think that the world really toppled upside down with the pandemic. The definitions of normalcy changed for all of us. And more than that, we witnessed so many emotions at once, There was fear, there was a sense of being overwhelmed, there was uncertainty, there was worry, like you said, but there was still hope. And that hope kept us going on. I personally feel that the concept of well-being and happiness, I looked at it through the pandemic on two different sides. The first was I saw people and communities get together and looking out for each other more than I have ever seen before. And it was phenomenal. It was, it made me believe that the kindness, the compassion still exists out there, and people are nice, people are great. And I witnessed it very closely with Giza. So we formed a network of students to help people who were quarantining themselves, to, you know, deliver groceries or deliver medicines. It was the smallest of things, but so many people actively said, yes, we will help. And I think that solidarity was very, very heartwarming. But on the other hand, it was very difficult to read about the migrants, about women, about so many victims of the pandemic. And it was kind of a guilty privilege that I was feeling, that I am at ease through so much. And no, not everyone does have that privilege, you know. So, but I still feel that one thing that helped me, or two things that helped me through this particular phase, was gratitude and prayers, because they're the purest forms of happiness, I think. And relating to what Sophie said, personally, I feel I believed, or I began believing in romanticizing the routines, in actually taking pleasure in the small things that I was doing every day, even though it was not great. You know, I was not able to go out. I was writing my papers most of the time on my laptop. But okay, a friend from the next door dropped in, and she said, okay, let's go out on a walk. And we found a beautiful tree with pink flowers, and we were so happy. So I don't think we would have gotten the same happiness otherwise. It's always that we value things more when we don't have them, and we just need to remember that it's not always going to be there, and always keep on valuing it.
Absolutely wise words by all of you. I mean, there were definitely a lot of interlinks that I could see from whatever you had mentioned, the lessons that you've learned, the reflections that you all had, the perspectives that you raised, and the poems that you raised as well. Absolutely lovely. Thank you so much. I think this was a lovely, lovely episode. I definitely love the aspect of the lightness, the here and now, and the micro aspects that together combine, and these are little steps, a little to happiness. And it's not, as we actually brought this earlier, it's not a one size fits all thing. It's really very individual. It's really deep within. It's small things, it's the big things, it's the here and now in the moment. And thank you all for being here and sharing your lovely perspectives. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Bye-bye.